All right. I'm going to do a little video here about my Quest 3 virtual reality headset setup. So right now I'm looking through my headset and you should be able to see it just like I see it. By default, when the Quest 3 turns on, I have it set up to do pass-through, so I can actually see through the cameras to see this real world around me. And then in addition to the real world, the headset starts putting up a few extra virtual menus that are floating in space. So here's the main Quest 3 control panel menu here at the bottom. And I happen to have another window up here that's above my real monitors. So here's real monitor 1 and 2. Real monitor 3 I'm not using right now. Here's my keyboard, my iPad with some custom controls I built for my simulator, and my stick and throttle for doing flight simulation. Up here is just an example of a floating window that you can drag around with your hand in space. And this one just happens to be the one that I'm using to turn on recording for this session. And so you can see it's recording right now. The way the Quest works is it detects your hands in space, and then you can use them to control things in front of you. So I can just pinch to close this window, for example, and it goes away. Now, in order to play the flight sim, DCS, first of all, I had to go into DCS and turn on some virtual settings and then load this software called Virtual Desktop Streamer under Windows 11 that lets it talk to the Quest headset. And then you launch the virtual desktop app from within the headset by clicking on its icon here in the virtual world. And then it will launch a window in space. Here we go. This is a virtual window that popped up. It's my virtual desktop control panel. And you can see it detected my computer is running the streamer, so I can just click on it. And now it basically brought my computer into the virtual world. So the first thing you'll notice is that my two monitors just got replicated into 3D space, floating in front of my real monitors. And so behind you can see the real monitor, and in front you can see sort of this exploded view of monitor 1 and 2 floating right in front of me. So you can just use this virtual desktop app to have virtual monitors in front of you, and you can size them and move them around in space. So that's kind of neat unto itself. But I'm using it to actually run my flight simulator through the virtual desktop connection. So I'm going to go down here and launch my DCS application. And yeah, my mouse actually carries through to the virtual world. You can see the mouse on the screen. All right, so here's my DCS application, and I've got it turned into headset mode. And then I'm going to click launch. And at this point, it's going to take over the entire screen, per se, and launch me into a 3D world. So I'm just going to sit and wait for it to load. The DCS app will automatically detect that you've got a headset connected. And here we go. We're going into the virtual world of DCS. Starts to load. It just puts up some flat screens to get started, and then initially it puts the control panel like right in front of your face here. It's like way too close. So I have a keyboard hotkey that goes into the virtual settings of DCS to do a reset, and I kind of just put my hand in front of my face and out about where I want to look straight ahead, and then I hit this key and it recenters and resizes everything to a more calibrated distance. So what you'll see here now is it's put me into this virtual aircraft hangar, sitting like on a stool next to a plane, and then this floating control panel for DCS. And then I can reach over. Now the virtual desktop app has this cool extra feature that's called auto hand pass-through detection. So it would be really hard without that to do keyboard, mouse, and all kinds of stuff by just fumbling around. But this allows me to pull my hands up in front of me and see through my hands into the real world to do things like grab my mouse or put commands on my keyboard or grab my controls. So to me, that's a lifesaver. And that's a plus of using the virtual desktop application. So I'm just going to go over here and load a multiplayer session of DCS, and I'll show you how it works. I'm going to go in my F5 aircraft into a Cold War one. So I'm going to go up here and look at Cold War. It's one of my favorites. They're currently running the Syria map, which I do happen to own, so I can join it. And then I'm going to click load. And so it's going to load up that online session. And while that's going, I can go over here and click on, put my hand up next to my real computer. This radio simulation interlink app asks if I want to auto connect to this server, and I want to hit yes. This will allow me to do virtual radio communications with other aircraft in that server. That's another reason why having this hand pass-through works good, because sometimes pop-ups come up on your real computer screen and you wouldn't have any way to interact with them without that pass-through. So super handy. I also got a lighted keyboard because the dark one I had sometimes was hard to see. It was a black keyboard with no lighting, and now I got a lighted one, which is easier to see, plus I can turn on backlighting. It's much easier to see on the pass-through. Okay, so when I join this server, Cold War live server, there's good and bad guys. You can choose, depending on what airplanes you own, to join the red team or the blue. And I've got F5. I don't have any MiGs or Mirages, so I'm going to always be joining the blue side, at least for now. And then I'm just going to move this where do you want to go screen to the side and just click. So basically it asks where do you want to go. And I'm just going to choose this airfield here, Abu al-Dahur. And then it's going to ask how do you want your aircraft to be set up and what kind. Well, I want the F5 Tiger Shark. I typically put it on the U.S. Air Force Southeast Asia paint scheme for this map. My standard tail number is 77, so I'm going to put that. I'm going to load all chaff or all flare and no chaff for the countermeasures, because most of the aircraft in the Cold War area were heat-seeking missiles only. And then I'm going to do air-to-air missiles of the AIM-9J type on the wingtips. And then I'm going to give myself an extra fuel tank on the center pylon. And then I'm going to hit OK. And this will basically put me in an aircraft on the ground at that area. Okay. So what's interesting about the virtual world load is it starts to load all the graphics starting from kind of a wireframe cockpit and just the ocean, the world ocean, and then it overlays the ground on top of it. So it's kind of weird how it builds the world. But you can see I've now been put into an aircraft hangar with my F5 parked and engines off. And then there's some game displays that overlay in 3D space that tell me about the status of what's going on. And it just kind of gives you server information here, and then it's got radar indications of enemy aircraft that are displayed continuously, as if you had a radar controller telling you where the enemy aircraft were. And that's aircraft that are being detected. It's possible to fly outside the radar coverage and sneak around. At least right now there's 3 enemy aircraft that are on radar. So we can just kind of take a look around. This is the real cockpit that I can look around. It's very detailed. You can almost feel like you could reach out and touch it. It's so real. All of the switches and knobs are active so that you can manipulate them with the mouse. If I reach over and grab my mouse, I get this yellow cursor that lets me interact with buttons in the cockpit. And then I've got some keyboard commands that bring up command menus to do things like tell the ground crew. Like for instance, right now what I want to do is start my engine start. And so the first step is to pull up an F10 a function control to go F8 ground crew, F5 air supply, F1 connect.
Connect ground air supply.
So they're theoretically down there under the plane hooking up a pneumatic air supply for engine start right now. And you can see they responded as connected. You might hear other people on the radios now talking to us. Alright, now I'm going to do apply power. That's F3. So they're going to actually apply it to engine number 1. So you're going to see over here, engine 1. It's going to start spooling up to about 15% RPM with external air. And then while that's going, I'm going to turn some things on. Get ready. My oxygen supply's on and normal. I'm going to get my generator switches and battery on. My left and right fuel feeds, my center fuel tank, and my auto balance switch set to left low. I'm going to start my early warning system to warm up and my radio to on. And once this is stable at 15% RPM, I'm going to hit left ignition. And then you're going to see left throttle.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Can you hear me?
Left throttle to idle. And I'm going to watch my temperatures come up on the left engine. I'm watching to make sure I don't get an over temp on start. I have to cut it off for a hot start. It should stay below about 900 degrees max. And it's stable at about 52% RPM. So now I'll tell the ground crew to switch me over to engine 2. Apply power.
Apply ground air supply.
Copy.
Kind of see the commands up here. Air is now applied. You should see engine number 2 spooling up. And so we're going to click ignition on engine 2. And then throttle to idle. Ignition temperatures coming up on the right side. RPM, temperatures coming up normally. Should stabilize at about 52%. There we go. 50%. Alright, that's good. Now we can tell them to disconnect the external power. That's an F2 disconnect.
Disconnect ground air supply.
And at this point we can finish our pre-flight. So
Ground air supply is now disconnected.
with both engines running, we've got full power, electrical and hydraulics. I can uncage and center my standby altitude indicator. I can come over here and I can on my flares and chaff. I can turn on my hydraulically powered pitch and yaw dampers. Set my radar mode to standby. I'm going to turn on a visual indicator of my trim and control status over here and put myself in ground operations mode, normal ground ops. And then I should be able to see my wheel brakes and my control stick. And I'm going to set my trim for about 7 degrees nose up. You can see my trim indicator here and over here. There's about 7 pitch trim up. Now I'm going to come back across to the right, and I'm going to sweep down and over here and switch my transponder to normal, my ISF mode to on, anti-torpedo heat on, canopy closed, and then master caution, silence. And at this point, Now I need to get my weapon systems ready, so I'm going to preemptively go ahead and turn on my missile and gun sight and arming on for the guns. I'm going to set my sight on to missile mode and arm left and right pylons. You might hear that growling sound, which is the seeker heads turning on for the air-to-air missiles. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set my flaps to auto, speed brake to in. And then I'm going to check my map to see where I'm at on this airfield, so I can get my taxi directions. So it looks like I'm just pulling out straight ahead to the runway here and taking off towards the west. See the enemy territories are to the south, and right now the closest enemy aircraft is 214 at 53. So back to the cockpit view, I'm going to reach out and grab my controls. And you can see I've got my stick, I've got my throttle, I've got my brakes, I've got my rudder, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and power up. See, we're starting to move out of the hangar. You can see the runway straight ahead. I can see a friend of mine getting ready to go. Well, not my friend, but another player on the friendly team is getting ready to taxi out. And these messages will just keep coming up on the screen. So you can see I'm actually taxiing out to the runway. They have realistic taxiway lines, lighting, signage. You can see this is the standard red threshold crossing sign showing we're approaching runway 22, I believe. Yeah. 27 maybe. And so we're looking both ways. Runway's clear, final's clear. I'm not making standard traffic calls because it kind of garbages up the radios in the game when there's a lot of people. Alright, so we're lining up. I'm lining up intentionally left of center line as if I had a wingman on my right, and I actually do have a guy next to me who might take off with me. Alright, verify. I've got flaps trim set, and canopy closed, warning lights off, power coming up. I've got the brakes on and I'm watching RPM go to 100, and then down here I've got my afterburner nozzles kicking in past 60, and I'm letting off the brakes and rolling. I'm going to watch my airspeed over here until it gets to about 170, and then I'll rotate. There we go, pulling back on the stick. We're climbing. And then I've got a button here to raise the gear. So gear's coming up. And then I'm going to switch my modes selector from ground to air combat mode. And now we're flying. Accelerating past 300 knots. I got a Mirage 191 at 29 on the heading, so that would be to the left. So I'm going to come that way and see if I can find him. 194 at 31. So I'm going to come to that heading, 194. I'm going to get down low. And I pulled my power back just out of afterburner there to save some gas. And we're doing about 420 knots at this point. Our Mirage may have gone down low. Off radar. Sometimes they do drop off radar if they get down low, so you gotta keep your eye out. keep heading this way. You see, I can look all around me. In the cockpit, out, forward, back. Very realistic. It truly gives you the sensation that you're in flight. It could be that Mirage crashed or was shot down. But I'm heading this way anyway to see if he comes back on the scope, onto enemy radar. They've modeled this game very realistic in that you have to actually have ground units with radar active in order for enemy aircraft to be on your radar system. And if the enemy destroy them, you have to rebuild them or replace them, otherwise you have no radar coverage. So I don't see that Mirage anymore. I'm not sure where he went. The next enemy is 250 at 43. That's quite a ways away, but we can kind of head that way. 247 at 40. There's two MiGs. Must be wingmen. Both at around 250 at 40 miles. So we can head that way and look for them. There's our heading of 250 right there. And I'm going to get down low to try and stay out of their radar. We're now doing 550 knots. So we should cover that distance pretty fast. Not sure if I like a 2-to-1 combat, but... Oh, one of them is dead. Now we're down to one. That's good. 252 at 36. Oh, they're both dead. Yep. I think they're both dead. I'm not sure, but... Make sure I don't hit these power lines. That would be bad. Alright, well... 195. It looks like I'm not going to find any bad guys in a short period of time, so... I think I am just going to head back to base. Or a base. So here we are. And maybe we'll head over to Hassan al-Assad, just over the mountains here. It's a closer base than where I'm at. Go all the way back home. I'm going to go ahead and go into full afterburner because I've got extra gas. And we'll see how fast we can get this going towards where we want to go. We need to come left a little bit. So home is going to be this way over the mountains. Pretty much due west. Look at the shadows in the cockpit even. It's very realistic. 600 knots. The F5 is supersonic capable, but you have to be a little bit higher. Down low, it's not quite going to be able to get Mach 1 due to the denser air. We're in full afterburner right now, so this is as fast as we can go. 246 at 20. Okay, there's more bad guys showing up, so... 152 at 35. That's way back there. I'm going to hop over the mountain and see if I can find anybody bad to intercept before I land. I'm going to hop up over this mountain here. tunnel down into this valley. See how close we are to our base. I'm gonna move the map. We're coming up on it. Off to the right. Should be right there. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and power back. I see the base off to the right. I'm gonna switch back into non-combat mode so that I can get control of my gear and speed brakes here. Speed brakes coming out. I need to slow down to about 270 to lower the gear. That yellow marker is what I'm shooting for. So I'm just going to slow this baby down. Pull some G's to bleed some speed off. Now we're at our gear speed, so I'm lowering the gear. We got gear down, 3 green, and I'm gonna line up with the runway. Looking off in the distance, we're coming straight in. Nobody behind me, sneaking up. Okay, now I'm gonna slow it down. I want to get down to about 160 knots on final. Okay, this is good. This is really good. You can see the AOA indicator to the left of my head. The green dot is right on normal approach speed. Green, the yellow chevron means a little fast. And so I'm basically just going to try and keep it on the green. Like that. That's perfect speed right there. And then as I get in closer, I'm actually going to slow it down in the flare so that it'll drop towards 150 and start flaring it off. Flare, flare, flare. Flare, flare, flare. And we're down. I can start using my brakes to slow down. Here's a visual anomaly where the layers of a building got kind of off stack. So that whole stack is supposed to be ground level, and you can see it kind of got a little shifted. That's supposed to be a command post bunker. So something on the 3D modeling got off a little bit there. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off here to the left. Clear the taxiway. Oh, nice little terminal here. And I'm basically just going to come back around and pull into a parking spot. And then I basically can set up to shut off my throttles, left engine off, right engine off, and turn off all these switches here. And open the canopy. And we're home at another base. So that's a little preview of what it's been like kind of playing around with virtual reality. It's kind of fun.